My boss erased 12 years of loyalty with one sentence. The AI says you're useless. I had worked at Helix Systems long enough to watch the open-plan office replace cubicles, to see glass conference rooms rise where quiet corners used to be, and to memorize the rhythm of the place the way you memorize a pulse. I am Emily Carter, 38 years old, a senior data analyst who believed that if you showed up, did the work, and stayed honest, the company would do the same for you. For 12 years, it mostly had. Helix sat just outside downtown Austin, all steel and light and branded optimism. Big monitors glowed on every wall, cycling through charts, dashboards, and slogans about innovation. I knew the numbers behind those screens better than most people in the building. I trusted data. I trusted systems. And I trusted that fairness could be engineered if you tried hard enough. At home, my mother's medical bills stacked up on the kitchen counter, neat and terrifying. Her health had been failing for years, and my salary, steady and predictable, was what kept her treatments going. That reality shaped every decision I made. I stayed late. I logged in on weekends. I volunteered for projects no one wanted. I told myself stability mattered more than recognition. Then Helix announced the new system. They called it the Productivity Index, an AI-driven score that would objectively measure contribution across teams. Daniel Rhodes, our VP of Operations, unveiled it during an all-hands meeting like a miracle cure. He stood beneath a massive screen, smiling, hands open, selling the idea that bias was finally dead. The AI would see what humans missed. It would reward effort. It would protect the company from inefficiency. My first instinct was curiosity. I asked how the model weighted variables, how it adjusted for role differences, how it handled remote work. Daniel laughed lightly and said those details were proprietary. Megan Lee from HR followed up with her favorite phrase, "The system is objective." Within weeks, the dashboards were everywhere. Scores floated beside our names in subtle colors, green for strong performers, yellow for average, red for concern. Managers checked them before meetings. HR referenced them in emails. The numbers started to matter more than conversations. I watched my score every morning the way people check the weather. At first, it stayed green. I felt relieved, even proud. Then, slowly, without warning, it slipped to yellow. I worked harder. I stayed later. I logged more activity. 2 weeks later, it turned red. I stared at the screen, convinced it was a glitch. My output had increased. My deadlines were met. My reviews were spotless. I emailed HR. Megan replied with a single line, "The AI updates nightly." The anxiety followed me everywhere, in the elevator, at my desk, at home, while I sorted pills for my mother. I started waking up before my alarm, heart racing, replaying every task I'd completed, trying to guess what the system thought I had done wrong. The meeting invite came on a Thursday afternoon. Mandatory team review, large conference room. When I walked in, the screen was already on. My name sat there in red, enlarged, impossible to ignore. Conversations died when people noticed. Daniel waited until everyone was seated before he spoke. He gestured toward the screen and said calmly, "Emily's productivity score has declined significantly." I felt heat crawl up my neck. I opened my mouth to explain, to ask questions, but he raised a hand. "The AI doesn't lie," he said. "It looks at facts, not feelings." The room stayed silent. I could feel eyes on me, sympathetic and relieved at the same time. Daniel went on about accountability, about difficult decisions. He never once asked me a question. After that, the layoffs accelerated. People who had been there longer than me vanished overnight. Their access cards stopped working. Their names disappeared from the directory. HR told us they were low performers, flagged by the system. Severance packages were suddenly off the table. Then I saw Daniel's email signature change. A congratulatory note circulated about his record-breaking performance bonus. $750,000. His unvested stock, valued at $3 million, tied directly to labor cost reductions. That was when I realized the red score next to my name wasn't a warning. It was a target. The red score didn't just follow me at work. It followed me home, like a verdict waiting to be carried out. After the meeting, no one sat near me anymore. Conversations stopped when I walked into the break room. Managers answered my messages with careful delays, as if every word was being reviewed by the same system judging me. The AI score wasn't just a number. It had become permission. Permission to doubt me. Permission to erase me. HR called me in the following week. Megan Lee sat across from me in a glass office that looked transparent but felt soundproof. She spoke in a measured tone, hands folded, eyes fixed somewhere just above my head. "The system shows sustained underperformance," she said. "We're prepared to offer you a demotion to junior analyst, lower salary, no bonus eligibility." I asked what evidence the AI was using. She repeated the phrase I had begun to hate. "The system is objective." Then she slid a document across the table, a non-disclosure agreement. I didn't need to read the details to understand the threat. "Sign," she said, "or we terminate for cause." For cause meant no severance, no insurance extension, no buffer. It meant explaining to my mother why her treatments might have to stop. That night, I stayed late, pretending to work while staring at the glowing dashboards. Scores updated every evening at midnight. The logic fascinated me and terrified me at the same time. Patterns emerged if you looked long enough. People over 40. People who worked remotely more than 2 days a week. People whose salaries sat above the median, all drifting into red. That was when Javier Morales appeared at my desk. Javier was an IT engineer who looked like he hadn't slept properly in years. He leaned close and spoke so quietly I almost missed it. "The model isn't doing this on its own," he said. I didn't respond. I just waited. "There are manual rules baked in," he continued. "Hard-coded, someone ordered it." He hesitated, then added, "I can show you the logs." We met after hours in a server room that hummed like a living thing. Javier pulled up screens I had never seen before. Raw system logs. Immutable. Time-stamped. Signed. Daniel's name appeared again and again. Directives instructing the AI to apply penalties to employees over 40 who worked remotely more than 2 days a week. Exceptions coded for executive recommendations. A hidden target variable labeled labor optimization goal, $10 million. Every termination auto-generated a justification. Every severance denial neatly explained by the system itself. The AI wasn't evaluating productivity. It was manufacturing excuses. I felt something shift inside me. The fear didn't vanish, but it hardened into focus. Over the next weeks, we worked quietly. I built models to translate the logs into plain language. Javier exported email chains, approvals, digital signatures. We calculated the numbers. $15 million in stolen severance and wages. Dozens of careers erased. One executive bonus inflated. Daniel walked the halls like a king, congratulated for efficiency. Megan enforced silence. The board praised innovation. I didn't go to HR. I went to a labor regulator, then to a law firm whose walls were lined with framed verdicts and settlement figures. They didn't interrupt while I spoke. They didn't ask me to simplify. They understood immediately. Subpoenas followed. Then panic. Executives stopped smiling. Meetings went dark. Emails leaked. Daniel was called in for questioning, and this time the screen didn't protect him. I was there when the regulators laid out the logs, when the numbers appeared, when the room finally went silent for the right reason. Daniel opened his mouth to speak and realized the AI had already said everything. By the time the investigation became public, the AI that once condemned me had turned into a mirror no one in leadership could look away from. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. Internal first, then everywhere else. Regulators announced a formal investigation into Helix systems for illegal age discrimination, wage theft, and misuse of automated decision-making tools. Reporters camped outside the building. Employees refreshed their inboxes in disbelief. Daniel Rhodes didn't walk out that day with his head high. He was escorted. The board released a carefully worded statement about unexpected governance failures. It didn't save him. His contract allowed termination for cause if misconduct was proven, and the logs did that with surgical precision. The $750,000 bonus vanished. The $3 million in unvested stock evaporated. His name became shorthand in headlines for corporate AI abuse. Megan Lee resigned 2 days later. Her emails had surfaced, showing repeated complaints dismissed with the same line. The system is objective. The phrase followed her into every article written about the case. The class action moved fast. Former employees came forward, some crying in depositions, others furious. The numbers kept growing. Severance denied, benefits cut, lives disrupted. The company settled before trial. $22 million to make it go away. My portion came through the whistleblower statute. $3.5 million wired quietly into an account that had never held more than a fraction of that before. I paid off my mother's medical debt in a single afternoon. I arranged her care without checking my balance. For the first time in years, I slept without fear. Helix asked me to stay on as a consultant. They wanted help redesigning the system. Transparency, human oversight, guardrails that could not be quietly overridden. I agreed on my terms for a limited time. I wanted to be sure the machine would never be used that way again. On my last day, I walked past the same glass conference room where my name had once glowed red on a screen. The monitors now displayed new dashboards, slower, clearer, annotated with explanations instead of judgments. People spoke again, instead of hiding behind numbers. I stepped outside into the Texas heat and felt lighter than I had in years. The building no longer frightened me. It had lost that power. They had tried to reduce me to a score, to turn loyalty into a liability and age into a flaw. They thought the system would protect them, that complexity would hide intention. But data remembers everything. The AI they used to erase people had recorded every decision, every order, every stolen dollar. All I had done was listen.